So on this day that a synopsis of the Mueller report has been publicly released by the Attorney General, President Trump has flown back to Washington. He made these quick remarks after leaving Marine One before heading into the White House. Listen.
Mr. President, will you ask the Attorney General to make the full report public?
Mr. President, will you ask the Attorney General to make the report public? I just want to tell you that America is the greatest place on earth. The greatest place on earth. Thank you very much. Thank you.
So you heard the shouted questions from the reporters there after the president returned from his Mar-a-Lago estate. They're asking, will you order the Attorney General to make the entire report public? Well, I'm not even sure that the president can order the Attorney General to do that, because the Attorney General is required by law to redact that report if there are elements of it that concern national intelligence or elements that concern grand jury testimony. You can expect some redactions from the grand jury from the Mueller report, not the quote-unquote full report that many people, especially on the Democratic side, are demanding. So according to the Attorney General Barr today, the Mueller probe clears the Trump campaign and the president's associates of collusion with Russia during the 2016 presidential election. That raises questions about why this investigation started in the first place, especially after some of the claims made against the president by former intelligence officials John Brennan and James Clapper. Also, former FBI officials Andrew McCabe and James Comey. Let's bring in Dr. Rebecca Grant, National Security and Military Analyst. She is also the president of IRIS Independent Research. James Clapper and John Brennan were especially hard on President Trump as this whole investigation developed. But I guess you could say they are not exactly neutral observers, having worked in the Obama administration and having expected that Hillary Clinton was going to win this election.
Well, Clapper and Brennan called President Trump every name in the book. And what disappoints me is these were intelligence professionals. General Clapper served in the Air Force for a long time. And I think they probably knew better. They knew very well that Russia likes to meddle, likes to interfere, not just in the U.S., but in other countries. And with their background, it should have taken them about 2 weeks to see that there was no collusion between President Trump and the Russians around the 2016 election. Very disappointing.
You think it should have been clear to them?
Yes, I do, because the fact is what Russia does is they have a very aggressive cyber strategy, and we're going to see this in the Mueller report. Part 1 talks about Russia's interference strategy. Part 2 is about the hacking. This is what Russia does. Our U.S. Cyber Command is engaged day in and day out in fighting with the Russians. So intelligence professionals should have known, yeah, Russia meddles, but no, there's no use of Donald Trump or of the Trump campaign as intelligence assets. It was preposterous.
Yeah, essentially, we are at war with Russia. That's what the head of Cyber Command, General Nakasone, says.
That's exactly right. General Nakasone testified to Congress last month that U.S. cyber, it does a persistent daily engagement with Russia, also with China and with others. And this is the reality. So I'm disappointed that the intelligence professionals didn't do a better job educating Americans about the reality of conflict with Russia, Ukraine, Syria, and the physical domain, and of course this ongoing cyber campaign. And it will come up again with 2020. So the 2020 candidates need to be very careful. Russia will keep trying this. But the fact is, a sitting president or a presidential candidate is not a spy asset. What the Russians look for is someone with special military technical knowledge or military communications and signals intelligence. Think of the long, big spy cases and the assets they run. It was ridiculous to think that a prominent American president from any party could ever be a Russian asset.
So if the Russians are sitting there, you know, prior to the 2016 election, and they're looking at Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump, they want to be prepared for either one of them to win the election, don't they?
Yes, and this is what people like Clapper and Brennan and others knew, is that Russia's goal was to get dirt on the candidates and be ready to smear America's name, and also to use social media to divide Americans, to divide us from our neighbors and ourselves, and to divide us from our allies. So they're out trying to collect dirt. That's why their original December 2016 FBI report mentioned that Russia had targeted 1,500 different Americans in the run-up to the 2016 election. They wanted a lot of dirt, and they expected Senator Clinton to win the election. They wanted to get dirt on her for when she became president so they could affect us around the world. That was their strategy.
Candidate Trump said he would like to get along better with Vladimir Putin, and a lot of people took that to mean that they were buddies. But many of the president's actions since taking office are definitely not in Russia's interest.
Absolutely right. President Trump's been pretty tough on Russia, most recently notifying Russia he'd pull out of the 1987 INF Treaty. He's also been tough in increasing lethal aid to the Ukraine. We've had American service members there helping to train Ukrainian forces to better oppose Russia. NATO has expanded, and the 2017 defense strategy that Trump put out prepares our military for long-term competition with Russia, China, and others. So he's been very strong. We have American forces tonight in Poland to deter Russia. So everything that President Trump has done in foreign affairs shows he's been very tough on Russia.
Dr. Rebecca Grant, it's good to have you on. Thank you.
Thank you.